there.
Welcome to my first ever podcast. I am Jim, a senior student in a Midwest university. This podcast is the result of an assignment I had to do as part of the Independent Study Program. For my senior project, I selected to interview senior citizens with years of life experiences to compare their views of today's thinking and values with that of decades ago. The questions were derived from my fields of study, political science and social studies. I named the project Intergenerational Perspectives on Topics of Present-Day Social and Political Interests. Since the hot topics of today include race, ethnicity, minorities and women's rights, immigration, social and constitutional discussions, it seemed important for my first session to get the view on these matters from a white male, the group most under scrutiny and attack by social political commentators. I was fortunate to get a white retired professor who agreed to be interviewed on these topics. He seems in many respects to be a good selection to represent the group most maligned these days. When I asked him to participate, he said, "Yes, I fit your program. I am an old white male who has opinions on today's issues from a perspective of the past. So I call this segment Views of an Old White Professor. Therefore, I want to present to you Professor Ray, who retired from the Midwest University recently and was a faculty member at 2 other large Eastern universities in the past. Thank you for being here, Professor Ray."
Well, this program sounds interesting to me and appropriate too, since I spent 50 years of my life teaching university students. Now it's about time for a student to ask me questions, and I'll try to give the answers. Keep in mind, however, I can speak only for my culture. I cannot presume to speak for other cultures.
Let us begin with one of the most divisive subjects in today's world, and that is racism. White people, in particular white males, have been accused of racism for a long time. As a white male, you must have experienced this negative atmosphere, but more broadly, answer this question. What do you think about the endless accusations of racism in America?
One thing I noticed over the years is how the meaning of words have been changed. We used to think mixing of the races by intermarriage is not a good idea. Today, that thought is considered evil. They call such a person a racist and attach all sorts of negative traits to people who think that way. At the same time, these social activists praise and promote diversity, not realizing or caring that one preserves diversity by not mixing. A single observation of the world reveals that diversity exists in all facets of biological life, and this diversity in humans has come about by spontaneous selection of mates. In other words, over the centuries, when people were left alone to make their own choices, what developed is the human diversity that now exists all over the world.
What attitude should a white man take on this issue?
It seems sensible to admire, appreciate, preserve the beauty of our human races. At a personal level, it is natural for one to want to preserve the special character of their family, appreciate the gift of their ancestors, and look forward to passing this on to succeeding generations. There's no hate in this. One wonders what modern social engineers have as their goal to denigrate such people.
You were saying such people are not racist. Then how do you define racism?
Well, racism is a system of thought that recognizes the existence of races among human populations. Call the various human population races, ethnicities, varieties, peoples, whatever. The fact is there is an array of distinct and unique groups of people that make up the wonderful diversity that is the norm among all living things. Nature's fierce struggle to survive relies on the mechanism of generating diversity. Oak trees have over 40 varieties, each a little different than the others, generated to cope with a particular environment. Humans, however, are not trees. We can migrate to where and with whom we feel comfortable with.
Then are you saying racism, properly defined, is a tendency of people to preserve and protect their identity for the progeny for generations to come? And of course, this would apply to all races and ethnicities.
Yes, of course, it applies to all races.
Then do you not agree with racial intermarriages?
I think nature got it right. Let people make their own choice. What I object to is a program to influence these choices by telling people that a particular decision is good and another is bad, as if somehow they, the social strategists, have wisdom beyond our own. I do believe media moguls have evil intent. For some, like George Soros and Tom Stiers and Bloomberg, feel that they have godlike powers and get an enormous high when succeeding in manipulating public opinion. They call someone a racist to beat them into silence. It is a system of mind and speech control, and very much allied to the Marxist ideology, which is the basis of the movement on the left.
How can white people deal with this overwhelming and constant attack on them?
Ordinary people can protect themselves by seeing the deceit of the social engineers program, which is to destroy American, Christian, Western civilization. White people are the target since predominantly white Europeans built this nation. Over a period of 400 years, Europeans came to this continent and built a civilization in the wilderness among hostile Indians. And over 240 years ago, they formed a nation that has been the wonder of the world. Whites are also the target because they are still the dominant people in charge. So these deceivers and destroyers try to demean white people and white history in order to destroy pride in country and in culture among the masses. Once they accomplish that, then comes the fundamental transformation Obama talked about, which is a secular, atheistic, socialist, communist culture.
What action can white people take to protect themselves?
Well, one important action to take is not to react. The media, leftist politicians push their ideas with a lot of emotion to convince people to accept them. When they have trouble getting acceptance, they get outright hysterical. So don't react or be swayed by the media hype. Notice that most of the attack is on the surface, that is, in social media, daily news reports, TV and cable stories, and dramas. There is no deep scholarly works on the subject supporting their view. What they have done is rewrite history or reinterpret history to give a negative spin towards whites.
Anything else?
Well, yes, do your own thinking. Get in touch with your ancestral feelings by taking pride in yourself, your family, relatives, and your people. That will guide you to the right decisions.
Seems what you are saying is this is a planned program to overthrow American culture. A coup. What some call a silent coup.
Well, the coup is only silent if you're not listening. It seems it is much easier to spread hate than love, and that is what they are doing. The hardcore cabal have no values or feelings like normal people. There is no true or false, right or wrong, hate or love. It is just an insatiable desire to dominate, control, and on the way to total power, they put no limits on death and destruction in achieving their goal.
Wow. You make this sound like these are sick, depraved people, even sociopaths and psychopaths.
Well, many commentators have certainly made that case. In fact, some international thinkers and writers have gone much further in describing these leaders of world domination as sorcerers and devil worshippers. The writers are dead serious about this and present some convincing evidence. But it is up to us to simply know that they are there, how they are manipulating the populace, and develop ways to avoid not being influenced. The emphasis should be on us, not them.
Since they are so well funded and influential, how can you hope to defeat them? Stop them from achieving their goal?
Well, it is hard to come up with a positive, encouraging answer to that question because the present state of mind of the average white man and woman. The story starts a century ago in the early 1900s. But instead of describing the history of the attack on whites, I would like to describe the consequences of 100 years of psychological warfare on the minds of white males. In other words, what is the present-day mentality and character of white males?
This sounds conspiratorial. Hard to believe. What effect did they have?
Well, I hate to say it, but the truth is the average male is defeated, afraid, withdrawn, shy, careful about what they say, and in a total is a shadow of a man. As I put it, all Vikings are dead, and men act today as if they are mentally castrated and neutered. That has been the goal of the left movement. That is, to eliminate the essence of what a white man is. It is ironic that the attack was effective because white men are sensitive, caring, intelligent, have a very strong sense of fairness, and in general want to be and try to be good people. It is because of that, what they are, that makes them susceptible to criticism and have a desire to respond to it.
I do not get it. Why do they feel that way?
It came about by rewriting history, making white men responsible for all the evils that ever happened. I won't go through the list now, just know it created an enormous guilt complex in white males. I just want to describe the way they manipulate, and the manipulators did it over a 100-year period. Pick any event in history that an ordinary white person would feel uncomfortable about. Let's say slavery. So the first thing the manipulators do will to dramatize the event beyond reality, then repeat it endlessly in various ways and make sure the white male is clearly the evil one. Second, they do not compare the American historical event that they are criticizing to any similar event happening in other parts of the world at the same time, thus not making a comparison among cultures for the same event at the same time. And then third, they do not present anything good that white people, our culture, our nation, our race did positive for humanity. So nothing good white men have ever done will be mentioned.
Well, what about other cultures?
Well, other cultures, large masses of people around the world believe in fatalism, meaning that one situation is determined by God or fate, and it is none of my business to do anything about it. Look around the world. Most cultures do very little about poverty.
So are you saying that white people are unique in some ways?
Well, each culture is unique in some ways. People of like feeling and views tend to band together. That is how we have 200 or more countries in the world, and far more peoples, that is, groups that identify within these countries, such as blacks, Orientals, Semites, Asians, Hispanics, are subgroups in America, each with their own view on issues.
That is all the time that we have for this session. Sir, are you willing to be interviewed on more subjects in the near future?
Yeah, I found this session interesting, and I hope it will help young students to understand the view of people who have lived a full life and are ready to hand over the survival of Western culture to them.
Is there a final statement that you would like to make to sum up what we have discussed here today?
Yes, I think we need to look at history to understand what is happening to America today. It was 100 years ago, about 1917 and 18, that the Bolshevik rebels overthrew Christian Russia and established the atheistic Soviet Union. And I believe now, at the 100-year anniversary of the revolution, the Bolshevik descendants are attempting to overthrow our culture and nation. A word to the supporters of the leftist movement in America. In Lenin's day, he called his followers useful idiots. It is imperative that we have serious, informed, capable, and selfless people to lead this nation and save the republic.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Ray. We will meet soon. Listeners, Please leave your comments on the site and we will try to respond to them next time.
I forgot my